Good morning, crypto Twitter, it's Misty Crypto, spreading crypto with doctors showing its benefits to my generation. Shout out to all my people, Gen Z needs to be included, it's really that simple. We are savage, amazed, boss, zesty, making money at the same time, spread peace. I feel empty if you don't include Gen Z, better change the world, so y'all better get ready. Misty Crypto, I'm never backing down, I got a wax account, you should say it out. So many NFTs, I think I lost count, and I'm only getting started. Yeah, I'm barely off the ground. Listing crypto, you cannot stop me. My hands are made from diamonds, your hands fall like origami. Never be the boss of me. Bitcoin's all I need. When I say I'm zesty, that's just me talking all this crypto and yum bomb marketplace. I wanna see the more, we gotta go through cyberspace. Leave this world without a trace. Say pay for a different day, cause we partners in the cryptos didn't stay.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Misty Crypto Show. I hope everybody's having a lovely Wednesday today. Wow, I see a lot of people in the chat. Hello to all of you. If you guys are new to the show or joining again, hi, my name is Randy, also known as Misty Crypto. It's really great to see you. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this stream out with friends so more people can enjoy the zesty vibes and charts today, because we're going to get the whole breakdown from our guest. But before we do that, I want to say thank you to Wax Blockchain for sponsoring the show. Keep an eye out for blockchain brawlers. They're getting pretty zesty over there at Tyranno Studios. But I'm going to waste no time. I'm going to say hello to our friend Gareth Soloway, such a zesty trader. How are you, friend? Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm doing well. Very nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And guys, just so you know, that's not a Zoom background that Gareth has. Those are real computer screens behind him. Like, what's going on back there, Gareth?
Oh, I mean, it's just I'm trading crypto, I'm trading stocks, I have a fund. I mean, there's so many things that I got to keep an eye on. Normally I say traders only need like 3 screens, but with running the different companies and everything, you definitely have to add a few more in so you can keep track of things. So
you have what, 8 screens behind you? How many do you have in front of you?
I have one 49-inch in front of me, which is divided into 2 screens. Yeah, so it's one of these cool like long ones, and then this is where I do my interviews with the backdrop like that, so you get the inside scoop.
Wow, that's some alpha right now. So you have a 49-inch screen that's like bigger than my future. Like I must be big on there. Like, woo, what's up, Gareth? What up?
I'm getting old, so my eyes aren't quite as good, so I gotta have these big screens, you know.
Yeah, listen, I feel you. I only have like one laptop in front of me, and then like one I want to say it's like a 20-inch
we gotta get
screen.
You a couple more more screens there.
I gotta get loaded up. I gotta be like you one day. Like, this is crazy. I feel like you're a whole like CIA agent. You're in the Pentagon. Like, you're like
a cockpit back there. Like I'm flying my my big plane back there. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're too much, Gareth. And I also hear you're a world traveler now. You're in Dubai. You're headed to Boston. What have you been up to? Share with our friends.
Yeah, so just got back from Dubai, which was awesome. Dubai's a great city, super clean, super safe. I mean, it's kind of weird because like you're flying on the plane between Iran and Iraq, and you know, like needless to say, we know especially Iraq had was going through a lot in the last 10, 20 years, and here you land in Dubai, and it's like another world. It's kind of like Vegas without the gambling, like lights and skyscrapers, and it's actually like a mix of Vegas, New York, without obviously the gambling. But yeah, it was awesome. The blockchain summit was great. Met a lot of people there, and yeah, it's just good to get out. I mean, I'm someone who generally I trade from home, right? This is my house here.
Yeah.
And so I don't get out a lot. I don't meet a lot of people. I don't have face-to-face aside from what we do here. And so it's kind of nice to meet people in person. You know, you get that interaction, which I think every human kind of craves from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, we're lonesome people out here in crypto. We just like
That's
stare at our
right.
computers all day. We're like constantly like doing blockchain things, and it's cool to talk to people. So you said it was very clean in Dubai. That must be nice. I mean, I see rats on the street here in New York. No big deal.
Yeah.
So how is the food out there? Because I hear like the restaurants are
Oh.
really like top notch and fancy.
They are. So I mean, you can go to kind of, the regular, ones, but we definitely did a few dinners at some of these fancier restaurants, and it was like, yeah, it was amazingly good food. So it definitely was one of those scenarios where I got back here and I had to get back to the gym and get back to my eating, my regimen. I'm a big salad and vegetable eater and fruit eater, kind of keeping it natural.
Yeah.
And so I had to get back to the basics from all the food that we were consuming there.
Wow, what was like the best meal you had? I'm so
Oh my
interested. I'm a
gosh.
foodie, man. I love hearing about this.
Oh, well, I'll just say this is like the last night we were there. We have someone who a good friend of ours. He's actually a billionaire, and his daughter lives there, and he owns 8 restaurants in Dubai.
Whoa.
And so we got to go to one, and basically, we just ordered everything on the menu, and they ended up giving it to us for free, and we got to try so many delicious dishes. I mean, it was wonderful.
Wow, Gareth getting the top-notch treatment. And you told me
Yeah, that
before
was
that,
cool.
yeah, you told me before that you were actually like, in the business class on the plane. What's that like for a 16-hour flight? I would get claustrophobic. I would start being like, woo, I got to go take a walk. How was the food on there? What was the experience like?
Yeah, so I mean, business class is I mean, I can deal with economy like if it's a 2, 3, 4 hour flight, but
Yeah.
but when you're talking 15 hours or 16 hours, that's just tough to be sitting there. And so it was worth it to us to splurge and really get that business class. The seats recline. You kind of almost have like a pseudo pod that's yours. You have your own screen you control and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, it was one of those things where, I got on the plane, I basically tried to get sleep, and I slept most of the trip. But yeah, it's definitely a way to go. It's not cheap though, I'll tell you that. But
Yeah.
but for those type of things, it's worth the extra money, in my opinion.
Yeah, that
Now, enough
must be
about me.
insane.
Tell us about you. I want to know. So, what did you do this last weekend?
I don't even know, man. It's like crypto's
You
so
were that
crazy.
drunk? I'm
No.
just kidding.
Imagine me getting plastered. That would be a mess. Anyway, so I think, it's been a really cool like week. I was actually with the mayor of NYC like I think
Oh,
that was like last week, and then it was crazy because I had this Post Malone concert planned for like
oh,
me, my dad, and yeah, my dad's a Post Malone fan,
that's
and my
awesome.
sister, her friend. So we were all like ready for this. It started like 8 p.m. Madison Square Garden, and we're like, we got this. And then I got a call a few days before, like, hey, like, do you want to come to this event, speak to the youths of the city? And I was like, frick yeah, what time? They're like, well, it's Thursday from 4 to 6. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, okay, I'm gonna come anyway. And it was in Manhattan. It was at Gracie Mansion, so it wasn't that far. Um, so I ended up making it pretty much on time. We got some chicken nuggets,
That's
some fries,
awesome.
watched the show. It was like really awesome. Roddy Rich was there. A Boogie came out.
Wow. So what did you say when you gave your talk? Did you talk about crypto, or was it about like, growing up in this new age of environment? Like,
I didn't really get to get as much time as I wish I could have because it was more like, the only people that spoke was like a panel with the mayor, the leader of the Young Future Leaders, and the chancellor of all the schools, and then there was one other person. I'm like forgetting their title off the top of my head, but it was just them, and so it was just like for me to go up and just like introduce myself, say a little bit about crypto, and then I was off to the side, like mostly doing like networking and talking to the kids, but like I was the only person that spoke, so I was just like
that's
really grateful to get
cool.
the opportunity, and I was like, sheesh, man, because I've met the mayor before, like we're chill. And I've also had Denise Felipe Adams, who's like his right hand woman on the show, and she's amazing as well. So it was just like a really great opportunity just to hang out with people, just meet new people from the city and talk to students. That was like the most important thing for me. I met like a lot of principals and things like that, and the interest is really there for blockchain education, which I'm so happy about.
Yeah.
It warms my heart. I mean, you said I think your kids are like 5 and 2. Like they're not gonna grow up with freaking fiat. Like what is this?
No. No, especially like even now comparatively to 10 years ago, I use cash so much less. I mean, it's
Yeah.
almost never do I use cash. Like think about it how people used to have those big like piggy banks that when they'd go out to the store, they'd get like, you get 31 cents change and you just put it in your piggy bank and it would grow or whatever, and then you could change it in at some point. I feel like the last time I got coins was like maybe once every 3 months. I'm getting something, that I'm buying in dollars, like versus a credit card or versus other things. So it's really, I mean, in all fairness, I think that's the way it's all going, right?
Yeah.
Everything's going towards credit cards, but even more so towards blockchain and towards some other method, which by the way, they're going to be able to track. I mean, obviously cash, it's a little, I mean, so you almost wonder if this avenue is now more of the like the government actually is like, all right, as long as we can track it, this is better for us. And then it makes me more nervous. I'm like, all right, well, maybe I should buy a little bit more physical gold and silver and maybe keep some cash on hand. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm really not sure at this point, because I think, obviously cash you can't track. And there's a lot more illegal or illicit activity that goes on within the traditional financial system than in blockchain, like by a thousandfold. I mean,
Yeah.
what I find really bullish about, what I've been hearing on the news is like, oh, they caught someone that did a crypto hack. Like, that's a great thing because they used to say, oh, you get away with all this BS, blah, 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 FUD. But now they're actually able to say, hey, like, we could track down these people. I think that's bullish. On the other side, like we do want our privacy, but that's what like Litecoin Mimblewimble, that you got the Moneros out there to
Yeah.
try to like help with that and
And
to
I
yeah.
totally agree with that. Like there are certain, I mean, it's a delicately balanced scale, right?
Yes.
Where you want people to be able to be tracked down that are doing things illegally or paying, but at the same time, you don't want the government to overreach. So the question is, right, and I don't know the answer to this, but where is that fine line, right? And how do you keep that line? Because it always seems like, when the government comes in, at first it's good, right? It's like, okay, they're just doing the right amount, but then slowly they kind of get in a little bit more and more. And it's just like, how do you keep that from happening? Because I'm a huge fan of getting some sort of regulatory actions in on crypto because I think it's going to help crypto.
Yeah.
Like, you want grandma and grandpa to invest in Bitcoin. Well, they're not doing it unless there's FDIC insurance on a Bitcoin, on a spot account, right? Because there's too much risk of them getting catfished or whatever, and then they lose all their money. And same thing with pension funds. Like, no pension fund with trillions of dollars is going to throw half a billion or billions in without knowing the framework that the government wants. So those are all things that will draw more money in. But then how do you keep it just at that point and not have the overreach?
That's what I've been thinking about as well because again like you said it is a delicate line and it scares me a little bit because I think like the whole premise of what we're doing here is to be our own bank and to have money that nobody can control and I
Right.
think obviously all of this is going to help with adoption but I think there might also be a crossroads where people are like oh well I understand Bitcoin and its value now, so I'm not going to invest in the traditional like ETFs, the spots, whatever, and I'm just going to go buy my own Bitcoin and start entering the ecosystem. So I think we're going to have a lot of that. I think this is like at this point, it's good for education. I just hope that, the crypto community, of course, stays strong in its convictions, which I know we have like a lot more legal representation and a lot more people running for, public office that are very forward with this. And, of course, we have a lot of people in the mainstream media that are also playing big parts in this. So I think we're
Yeah.
gonna have like both sides battling each other. It's like what's gonna
Yeah.
make a decentralized metaverse or like the meta of Facebook. Like there's gonna be a battle here, and that's
There
what I'm
is.
really excited for.
Yeah, no, me too. I think again, I think honestly, one of the reasons why Bitcoin's gotten so quiet recently, and it's been really quiet, is that I think the market is expecting we're going to get some more framework on regulation. So you're not seeing big buyers come in, but at the same time, the sellers have been exhausted, at least for now. And so people are just waiting. When are we going to hear more information? And by the way, one thing I've said is that I think that when we do get that framework and the SEC releases the framework on the rules, and again, Bitcoin probably a commodity, most other things a security, but that's fine. But the question I have is, are there new rules for crypto securities that are different from stock securities like Apple or Microsoft? And I think that's what we're going to have to see. But I do think that once that happens, you do see it now, then a relief and a move up in crypto at that point.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of this like regulation doesn't even make sense to me. I think like even something came out this morning like the IRS labeled NFTs as stable coins. Like I don't even know how that's any sort of related. I think that's another piece of FUD. It's just they don't what's funny to me at least is that a lot of people that are kind of creating these regulations, all these rules, don't even like tweet. They don't even know how to send an email, yet they're like commenting on cryptocurrency and what this all means when they don't even like probably know how to set up a wallet. Have they ever played a game in Web3 and actually experienced this? Probably most likely
Well,
not.
And in all fairness, to be honest, I view it the same way as like the marijuana industry, right? So you have these older generations that were all about in the 80s. It was like the war on drugs, and like marijuana is a gateway drug, and it leads to all this other. It's horrible, horrible. And then like I lived in Oregon for a while, where it was totally legal. You could buy recreational, and there was no difference. Like there was nothing. I tried it on occasion, and whatever, but like it's not addicting in my opinion. And like there's certain people that are going to do it more, certain less, and then certain none, but it didn't increase anything negatively in my opinion. I didn't feel less safe walking down the street, for instance, just because people could buy this in a store, right? So I think the same thing where you have these older generations that are kind of like scared of these things, same thing, and don't understand it fully with the marijuana industry. And then the same thing now with crypto, you have these older generations again that are like, I don't know what it is, but it sounds like it could be a threat to the system, so let's be against it. And it's like, learn about it already.
Yeah, right. There's countries where like guns are fully legal, and the like all these drugs are legal, and nobody does them, and there's no like drug epidemic. It's because like people
Right.
don't care. Like it's just like I think it's like people it's like when your parents tell you don't do something, you're going to go and want to do it anyway. I
Right.
think that's exactly like what maybe caused this like war on drugs. I don't know. I'm just thinking. I'm spitballing here. My thoughts are
Yeah.
flowing because it's absolutely crazy, and I think all these other countries like that, are very crypto forward. People are prospering there. Or it's maybe it could be the same for people that don't care because they don't know what blockchain is. I just think that maybe if the like people higher up here in the States were more forward, then yes, blockchain innovation would keep going, but maybe it'd be like more collaborative since they'd be
Yeah.
so open. Just
Yeah,
like,
and I do think that that's like I think that is the key is to embrace it and then find out all the good that it can do in the
yes.
world. And again, I don't know necessarily the different avenues, but God knows there's a lot of ways that blockchain technology can be applied to make things better and safer, really, probably too.
Yeah, and what do you think about Bitcoin being like a hedge against inflation right now? Because I think considering all like the money printing that's going on and all of like these like economic situations that we have going on in the world, for Bitcoin to be hanging on to this price range, I think is pretty okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I do think I think I've been impressed because the equity markets, the stock market has been heading generally down, and Bitcoin's really been going sideways. So it's showing us glimpses of what it could be.
Yeah.
I do worry that it's not quite mature enough yet to fully kind of disconnect from the risk asset style that it's been kind of caught in. But there's no doubt that it's showing us glimpses of what it can do, and that's great. And again, we just have to remember that like you're 16, right? So I guess Bitcoin would be the equivalent of a 13-year-old. So your
Yes.
13-year-old can show signs of maturity, but at the same time, they're still going to be immature because they're a 13-year-old sometimes too. So you're seeing that kind of mid-level where sometimes it's doing the right thing, sometimes it's still kind of crazy.
Yeah, and then even someone in the chat thinks like the 4 year cycle is still stands low before the end of November, and then
Mm.
next year flat, then all time high in 2025. Like that's a plan right there.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just can't picture us going down anymore. I just think that,
I
I
know.
feel like, Bitcoin is at like this point like in the charts where it's just like kind of sideways, and it's thinking like, oh, like am I going down? Should I go up? Like are we going to pump,
I
dump? Like
know.
I just feel like we're on the brink of something. I feel
So
something.
So I want to show you a chart. And by the way, my screens don't like what I'm saying, so they just shut off.
Yeah,
No,
I saw that. I was like,
it's,
oh
yeah,
no.
I know. It's usually I can set something so it doesn't happen, but that's okay. But the bottom line is this computer's on, and this is the important one I'm talking to you on.
Yeah, let's get it.
So let's look at the charts, and I want to show you, and this is my one concern about like where we could be if we go back to the 2017 highs, right? So this is where we are in crypto, and it's really like you said. I mean, like so sideways and just consolidating. Number one, we have this beautiful what we call a wedge pattern. So at least in the short term, if we can break above, I think you have a shot to maybe get up to about 25,000. So that's kind of cool if we can get the breakout. But please note, it hasn't happened yet. You're literally stuck in this tiny little triangle niche, and we need to see that breakout occur. But going back to what you were saying about like where we could be in the cycle and how it's just getting so quiet, look at what happened back in the previous cycle of 2017. And this is my only concern. So basically, we had that big fall down here from here's your 2017 high, lots of chop on the way down. And then look at what happened here. It just goes to sleep and then sleep, and look at how tight it got. And then all of a sudden,
It
right?
fell
So
off the bed.
that's my only fear, right? Is that we're doing that kind of period. And then if it does start to break, it's going to be a big break. And then
Ooh.
but the positive is, all right, let's always look at the positives here.
Okay.
The positive is that was the final flush before the bottom. So even if this is what we're doing right here, at least if it dips, I'm a buyer. Heck yeah, I'm a buyer. Because at that point, then if we zoom out, look at what ends up happening, right? It bottoms out, curls up, and then this was just the beginning of the bigger bull run that eventually led us up to the current, double top high here. So it's a tricky one, right? I mean, it's like you look at these past charts and we know human behavior occurs or repeats over and over again, but you hope it's different this time. So we'll just have to see.
I mean, we've almost been, in this kind of downfall since what, November? It's
Yeah.
been almost a year of just boring dumps and sideways trading.
Yeah.
I'm over it, Gareth.
Me too. Me too. And I mean, let's be fair, right? This is the first bear market for Bitcoin with no Fed printing of money. So I think we just have to be aware that like a lot of people are saying, okay, well, we should bottom here soon and start moving up because past cycles generally lasted about 12 months before they bottomed out, right? Well, the problem is that all those past cycles, there was money printing that helped us kind of push it up. So,
Yep.
so just to be on the safe side, I'm preparing myself for a slightly longer bear market just because the Fed's not bailing us out. Now, if the Fed came out and started lowering interest rates next week or whenever, then I think, all right, now it's bull on again in Bitcoin. But we just have to see with the Fed here because it's kind of the first time this is happening.
This is crazy to me that everything is dependent on like the Fed and what they're doing. Like I
Yeah.
feel like, was that previous run up like to the all-time high like kind of a fake high because of like the inflation? Like what's going to be like a
Yeah.
genuine high where we don't need them. We don't care
You're
about what they're
you're
printing.
100% right. Like this is what's so crazy is like if you think about the run up that we had here, it was exactly what you're saying. It's like, was it fake? I mean, obviously price action was real. People
Yes.
made money, people lost money, but there was so much money. I mean, in the US, we had the government sending checks out to people. People were home from COVID, and so they weren't driving and spending money on vacations. I mean, there was so much extra money plus quantitative easing from the Fed that the question is if we didn't have COVID, would we have ever gotten this high on Bitcoin? I don't know.
Yeah,
Like
that's what I'm
that's the crazy
saying.
thing about it.
Dude, it's crazy because like also someone said, Eric, in the chat, sentiment is too bearish for a final flush. Need another short-term relief rally. Well, I don't know. Like the sentiment is another thing that I think about because like I think the sentiment's pretty high for cryptocurrency right now. Like all big money and all these banks are entering crypto. Yet,
Yeah.
like the good news doesn't have any impact on the market. But if a little bit of bad news comes out, then that's what the mainstream is flooded with, and then we dump. Like, what's the deal with that?
Yeah, I agree. It's by no means are we at a bottom yet because the one thing I remember clearly from 2018 after we topped in 2017 is when we did hit the bottom, people were like there were a lot of people that were giving up on Bitcoin at that point and we haven't
Yes.
seen that yet. So it does make me think there's that one final flush where finally you'll get to see that, which is a kind of that mentality. Now, in the short term, I kind of wouldn't be surprised if we did see a short-term relief rally, and if we could just break above this line, we would get it. I mean, I think you get a little short squeeze even above it. But again, even if we pop up, then I still, for me, it's still telling me further downside. Which again, I hate to say, I hate to be that person, but also the charts are what I follow, and it still doesn't look like we've fully bottomed out yet. But as I said, buying opportunity, like you want it, and by the way, can I just say something here quick?
Yeah.
So last year, Bitcoin was like 65, 69,000. I come out and I'm like, hi guys, charts are saying we're going to 20. Like, just be aware. Oh, you're crazy, Gareth. You're smoking that too much of that stuff, whatever they said. And then people were like on Twitter, they're like, you know what, if Bitcoin gets to 20 again, oh my God, I'm going to sell my kidney to buy Bitcoin, right? Well, here we are at 20, and I don't see anyone selling their kidney.
Literally, I even tweeted Gareth during the bull market, would you sell your pinky toe for Bitcoin? And a lot of people were willing to do that. But I don't
Yeah.
see anyone willing to sell their pinky toes right now.
No, no. What's up with that? Come on, guys.
Come on, guys, sell your pinky toes, buy more Bitcoin. If you still have
You don't
toes, you don't
really
have
need your
enough.
pinky toe, right? I don't know.
No, I mean, I wouldn't sell my pinky toe, but I'd sell a chair, like I get those sats one way or another.
Yeah,
Do
for
you
sure.
also look at, I wanted to ask, do you look at volume a lot in terms of like the sentiment? Does volume equate to sentiment? Does that have an impact on the charts as much as like maybe I'm thinking it does?
It does, like more so at highs and lows. So for instance, making higher highs on lower volume is a concern because when you have lower volume but you're making higher highs, like we saw in October, November from the April, May highs, that tells you that big money is not buying in heavily, right? So
Yeah.
generally we want to follow the bigger money, the whales, and because they're the ones that have the ability to get the research, that know, they're kind of the smarter money. And so that's a good indicator. That was showing us in October, November to be very, very careful. And then also at lows, when you see big flushes on heavy volume, you're usually flushing out a lot of the weaker hands. And if you get a bottoming tail, what's called a bottoming tail, it tells you that there's big money buying all that up. And that's why the price is bouncing back. So there are signals with volume that you do pay attention to.
And what are some other signals that you make sure to watch out, especially like during the bear market, that you think are more important now than maybe in the bull?
Yeah, so I think the big things like support resistance lines. So for instance, it's amazing to look at the charts and just see how levels kind of play out over and over again. So you can connect, I mean, literally you can connect this high to this high, and it gave you the exact high here, the high here, and then right here. And
Wow.
one of the things I know from trading for 20 years is that the more you hammer on a trend line, the weaker it becomes. So the more you hammer on this upside line, it's essentially like a door that you're hammering on. Let's say you got to break through that door. Your kitty's inside, the house is on fire, and the door is locked. You bang that door as hard as you can. Probably first, second, third time, you're not breaking it down. But if you hit it enough, you will break it down. And so that's why I'm keeping an eye. The more hits we get on this upper trend line, if we can pop out, then that would be bullish. The problem is, same thing works on the downside line here, which would be a breakdown. So if we start hammering on this lower line, that would be problematic. But just looking at some of these other trend lines, I want to just show you this
Yes.
here. Like, look at this trend line here, right? So you could see you broke below this line and then you retraced into it, you kissed it, you retraced, and then that was the beginning of the next move down. You could also look at this low here, and then look at how price fell right into it and then sideways until it broke. So it's giving you, the charts are amazing like that. They give you levels to be aware of. They don't necessarily tell you, will it hold above this level for a long time or not? But usually you can get a trade in here at these levels. So yeah, and again, just think about where we bottomed out here, right around 20,000, which we all know was the 2017 high. And there's that line right there. So I'm a big believer in trend lines. You can see I don't have a lot of wacky signals on my chart like a lot of people do.
Yeah.
I just draw my own stuff and just read the charts.
That's freaking wild. So like while you're like going through all of like this kind of timeline, where like right now, like where would you start your trend line to like look into kind of the future? Why like and why start at that point?
That's a good question. So let's get rid of these trend lines here. And let's go to when I look towards the distant future, I want to go to either the monthly chart or the weekly chart. The bigger time frames give you the bigger moves over time, right? So the daily chart, which we're on right now, tells me shorter term, like over the next month, where's Bitcoin likely going to go? But we can flip over to the weekly chart and then we get a much bigger picture. And so for me, what I start to notice, number one, if Bitcoin's going to dump out, I'm looking at this as maybe my low pivot. And notice how you go all the way back to the lows before the first bull rally in 2017, and it connects right to this low here, which then connects to this low. So by thinking about that, if we did dump out, where would I be a buyer of Bitcoin? Right at that level. So right away, it gives you an idea about, okay, well, now I know where, if we get there, we should see some sort of bounce, because every time we've hit that line, we've had some sort of bigger move up. So it kind of starts to give you that insight about, well, where should I buy? On the other side, if we look at the upside, I mean, this is a little trickier because of this crazy move.
Yeah.
But I mean, what about like using a trend line like this, where it's like a megaphone pattern, where if Bitcoin starts its next bull rally, could it potentially go all the way up to that line, which would be pretty amazing, right?
Yeah, that's like What,
I mean, that would be
80K?
100. I'm guessing right now it's close to 100,000, you would think. So and
Wow.
again, trading and using charts doesn't give you exact answers. I want to make that clear because a lot of people are like, oh, the chart didn't work this one time. Charts suck. In reality, charts give you probabilities. And so even if you have like a 70% chance that something's going to work out, it still leaves 30% chance that it's going to fail, or 3 times out of every 10. So the goal of charting is to basically become the casino versus the gambler. Yes, the casino, someone comes in, they win money from the casino, but out of 100 or 1,000 or a million people, the casino is always going to win.
Absolutely. So what is that low like kind of like take us to? Like
This one looks like
9,000?
just right now, just below 10,000, believe it or not.
Whoa. So that's kind of
Yeah.
like what like the majority of traders are kind of calling right now is like
Yeah.
around 10K. That's frightening, but also to see like the extreme upside that could happen
Yeah.
for this. Like that's pretty insane to me.
That is insane. And in all fairness, you'll have resist. I mean, on the way up, you'll have resistance at double top up here. But I mean, again, think about that, right? Think about buying at, let's say, 10,000, and then this thing, I mean, 10x's to 100,000 in the next bull run. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's wow. Everyone would be driving Lambos. Everybody would be tweeting laser eyes
Well,
on
but
Twitter. This would be
we
a meme
say that,
fest.
but then just like the people that said they'd sell their kidney, the problem is going to be is that people that are in Bitcoin now, and this is what's so unique about trading, is that if Bitcoin goes below 10,000, a lot of those same people will panic and then say, oh my God, I got to exit. And then only the strong, the people that are like 100% in no matter what, will be the ones that end up making money on the next bull run, because everyone else will wait and say, oh my goodness, I'm too scared to get involved. And that's the way markets work. You can go to commodities, you can go to stocks. The markets will push you to your limit. Like they will push you to your emotional limit to get you to do the wrong thing. And then as soon as you do the wrong thing, it goes the opposite way, the way you were hoping it would go.
Yeah, it's insane. It's a lot of the time, like, even like you said before, you can't count on the charts for everything. And it's more like you have to kind of have a plan. And either way it goes, you just have to be prepared for that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think the biggest thing too is, and I always, want to say this, and I'm sure you do too, is like you never invest all your money in anything because you just don't know, right? And I've learned that the hard way in my early career, making stupid investments where I put way too much money and it cost me, most of that money. And so, yeah, I'm a big believer in Bitcoin, and I'm going to continue to buy Bitcoin when it dips, but I'm not going to put 100% of my assets in Bitcoin. I'll still spread it around, diversify, just in case something really disastrous happens.
Yeah, even, Matt in the chat said as long as you're using risk capital and not your rent, you should be okay.
Yes, exactly. As long as that's what. And by the way, this quick story. I was early on in my trading career, and I started my trading career with $10,000. After a few years, I was good enough to kind of have a good run, and I built it up to 100,000. And then one day I was day trading, and I threw money in a stock that was collapsing, thinking it would bounce. It didn't bounce. I put more money in. It didn't bounce. I put more and more and more. End of day, I lost 70,000 of that $100,000, and I was in a daze. I mean, that was like the most ridiculous smack in the face. But what I did was I stood up and I rationalized everything, and I said, do I still have a house over my head? Yes. Can I still feed myself? Yes. Do I still have my health? Yes. Those are the three most important things. And then I said, you know what? I'll come back from this. I'll come back. I'm going to learn from my error here and never do that again. And I did. And the key is, do you have those three things? And then it's okay, right?
Yeah, it was like you were kind of being like that degen at the casino, and you were being the gambler instead of the casino, and
That's
then you had to
right.
turn
I
it
was.
around.
Oh, and it cost me a fortune, or it's at that point it was a fortune to me. Yeah.
Yeah, even, my dad told me a story recently because we were like talking about Vegas, and he said he went to Vegas with a friend, and they just got there, and the friend was like, oh, I'm gonna go like down to the casino for a minute, get a drink and whatever. His friend comes back and loses 20K, and like,
Oh.
back then that was a lot more money, inflation, and
Yeah.
and the guy didn't leave his room for the rest of the vacation. So I feel like that was
Oh.
like, kind of
Yeah.
you.
Oh, it definitely stings. It definitely stings. And the kicker is too is like you look back and you say to yourself, I should have known better. I should have known
Yeah.
better. But we get caught in these emotional things, and we have to just continue to drill ourselves. And this is why investing and trading is really you need an education on it, not only to learn the charts like I do, but also control your emotions, right? And you ask my wife, like the craziest thing about it is like, she'll be like, sometimes she'll get all upset about something and I'll just be like, listen, it is what it is. Let's move on. Well, that's my trading, because when I do take losses, and I take losses today, you just got to let them go right away. And it's just a bad trade. Now move on so you can get a good trade in there. And so it kind of goes into your other life too, when you get very disciplined about emotional control and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, wow, definitely after that you had to control your emotions. I feel like you
Yeah.
gotta like, you do gotta go like touch that other form of grass that we were talking about before
Yeah.
that's legal.
That's I
And
love
just
it.
like calm down a little
Yep.
bit.
Yep.
And
And I think that's the key is like,
yeah.
everyone's going to make errors. And I want that to be clear is like, I didn't get to where I am now by somehow being this genius trader. I went through all the hard knocks that I could go through, but it's just a matter of sticking with it and then learning from your mistakes and trying not to make them again. And eventually you get to be a profitable trader. And I've made more money in my career now by buying small positions on many different things than by trying to hit home runs on one particular altcoin, for instance.
Yes, 100%. And what do you like, what do you think are some mistakes that people make when looking at charts that you think that they should be aware of? Because I know a lot of people are trying to trade right now.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is like number one is you have to make sure that you have multiple signals. So you have to learn, number one, learn like the signals that a chart is telling you, because charts are always talking to you. It's just a matter of, can you learn the language that they're speaking? Once you do, it becomes clear. But a lot of people run into the issue of like this Bitcoin market, right? You'll see this little uptick in Bitcoin. Let's say we do break out. Let's say we go to 25, and they'll start getting that FOMO and being like, oh my God, this is the new bull run. They jump in, not recognizing that the bigger pattern here is actually a bear flag, right? And this is what everyone should be aware of, is that I had that little channel drawn in before, but really what you're doing here is this is a down move with sideways consolidation. Now you could go up to this high, which is 25. We talked about that earlier, but it's still in a bear flag formation. So you can't FOMO in when it gets to 25, when it's going right into resistance. And then I think the next move, at least probabilities tell us the next move would be down.
Wow, that's so interesting. Do you also apply like these same types of things to like the dollar chart? Do you follow the dollar chart?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% on the dollar chart. I want to show you this because this actually let me grab gold not too long ago and play a little gold trade off of this. So basically, see this trend line I put in, how it hit it here and then hits here, here, and here. So what I did was I said, okay, so the dollar is moving up sharply. When it hits here, buy things that go up when the dollar falls. So what did I do? I played gold for a bounce, and sure enough, the dollar fell beautifully. And you could see how the trend line worked perfectly there. So if for instance, the dollar rallies sharply up into that line again, I'll do the same thing again. I'll just look for the dollar pullback, which will then help Bitcoin maybe and maybe gold and some of these other things.
Whoa, that's so wild that you could like trade the and look at the dollar chart. That's
Yeah.
something that just like I don't know. I think it's so wacky. Just
Yeah.
like seeing like the value of our currency.
I know, and what's so cool about this is that it's like you look at this trend line, and I don't think it's hard to do, right? All you're doing is it's almost like, remember like connect the dots back when we were
Yes.
kids. Like, I mean, that's really all you're doing. You're just connecting highs, and when you come across a connection like this, that every time it hits, you're getting these pullbacks. Well, then just play for that again. If it gets to the line, be disciplined, wait for it, and then play the pullback. And again, it's a probability thing, so it's not going to happen every time. But if it happens 7 or 8 times out of 10, you're going to make a lot of money.
Dang, this is so interesting. So, particularly, so you were saying like when the dollar falls, like on the chart, that's when you would go and play something like gold. Why?
Yeah, so the key is, yeah, when the dollar tops out, so when it's going to fall, you would play gold. And the main reason is because gold is traded in US dollars.
Yes.
So when the dollar weakens, gold by default will go up. So they have this kind of inverse relationship between the two of them. And same thing kind of with Bitcoin. It's just Bitcoin's a little bit more. There's a few other factors in there, like the fear trade and like some other things. But in general, I do think Bitcoin gets to that point where it becomes that safe asset versus stocks and stuff like that.
Holy sheesh. This is so interesting. Like, I can't even conceptualize this right now. I'm so amazed. Gareth, like, you're a freaking genius, my guy.
Oh, thank you.
You're amazing. You're amazing. What should we be looking out for now? What do you think is like, what stat should we be following? What do you think like is the most important thing to know? It could be like the dollar, Bitcoin, or any other cryptocurrency for that matter if you're following
Yeah,
anything else.
so the dollar for sure is like the number one thing I look at on a daily basis because of the Fed. Like if it wasn't for the Fed and the tightening and how the market's hinging on every word, then for me the dollar wouldn't be as important. But literally every time, like if you look at the dollar today, right? The dollar's having this green candle. This is a daily chart. So the dollar's up today. And if we go to the S&P 500, the S&P 500 is having a down day. So everything is working inverse to that, including Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin's not having a big down day, but again, there's a down day on it. So you are seeing the dollar having that impact. So I think the dollar is the number one thing. And then for me, I do keep an eye on like the yields, which are interest rates. I don't know, whenever people want to buy houses or whatnot, I mean, God knows it's really gotten expensive now to get a mortgage because the 30-year, I think, is a north of 7% versus it was 3% not that long ago. But this chart as well, and you can see that this chart's right. This one's actually piercing the line. So I do actually think this starts to pull back here in the not too distant future as well, based on this trend line here.
And random question, do you also follow like other currencies like pounds, yen, like all those like do you compare those and like, maybe the Bitcoin chart comparing to those currencies too to see like maybe what's going on there?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily compare Bitcoin, but I think it's important to follow charts, and I'll show you one like
Yes, please.
the let me look at the pound here, the British pound versus the dollar, because this is an important one. So if you look at this is the British pound, and what we know is that just 3 weeks ago, the Bank of England came out and it actually kind of started QE again because the pound was collapsing. They had to come out and try to support the British pound. And what was fascinating about this is not only did you get down to the $1, it was basically on par. The pound was on par with the dollar, so meaning it was equal value. But what's fascinating is if you look at charts, the chart kind of gave us a heads up. Look at this. If you go back to 1984 or 1985, look at the low there, and then look at the low that was hit on the pound. And so you basically, in terms of, I mean, this is how far you have to go back with currencies. That's what we call a double bottom, and it's support, and you should get a bounce in the pound. Well, guess what happens to the pound? It bounces right off that trend line and comes up. So again, charts give us that insight to kind of figure out what's going to happen. And then the other thing to keep an eye on, this is actually a trade I put on today, is the dollar yen is right by 150 and right into a trend line here. And I don't have a random trend line there. We can get rid of that. But look at this trend line on the dollar yen, and you're right into that level, right by 150. So I actually went short the dollar yen or long the yen today.
What? That
Yeah.
is so freaking wild. Because I know, the reason why I was asking is because I know a lot of people in Europe, a lot of people from here were flying to Europe because it was like a lot cheaper, and they were able to go. Like people from Europe are coming here to buy products because it's like the dollar's on par, like 1 to 1, and I was like, what? Like this is
Yeah.
insane.
It is so cool. Yeah. I mean, I love this. I love the fact that every day I sit down behind my computer, right? And I don't know what I'm going to discover. It's like being an explorer. And I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm going to make $1,000 today, 5,000, 10,000, or maybe I'll lose today. But it's that excitement. It's almost like you get to gamble, but in general, if you get good enough, you're going to make money doing it and become a professional, like winning gambler.
Yes, you have to just like like you were saying, like do your due diligence.
Yep.
And like you have your own courses. Is everything fully out for you yet?
Yeah. In fact, I just launched this new 3-course series. It's called the Winning Trader series,
Do you
and
have a link?
literally everything I know that's up here for the last 20 years, all my mistakes that I've learned by everything from analyzing your own discipline and mentality to the market psychology to the charts, like everything I know I put in this. There's 3 courses included in the bundle, and it's 20 hours long, like of me just teaching, and we debuted it in August, and it's called the Winning Trader series. So, and by the way, if you don't mind me mentioning, it's at verifiedinvestingeducation.com. But it is
Yes.
like it will blow your mind away, like the stuff I reveal in there about how to read charts and kind of understand the market.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you if you had a link. So it's verifiedinvestingeducation.com, right? Okay,
Yeah.
I had that from before. Let me drop that in the chat again. Yeah,
Awesome.
guys, check this out, man. This is crazy. I really like, I respect what you do because that's amazing. I mean, I'm trying to learn about charts and like that's why I like to have you on every so often because like
Yeah.
I learned so much from you and like you break it down in a way I could freaking conceptualize and
Thank
understand. Like
you.
you're blowing my mind here. And
Thank you.
what are like I know a lot of people get wrecked with stop losses. For people that are new to trading, what is a stop loss and why do people always get wrecked?
Oh yeah. So this is the tricky thing with stop losses. It's always good to have a maximum that you're willing to lose in a position, which is why you have a stop loss. The problem is that psychologically, all retail investors like to put them at even numbers because it's like, think about something that's like, let's say it's $25. Where would the most common stop loss be? Well, you'd say, all right, well, if it breaks $20, I'll stop out. The problem is the algos and the bots and the institutions know that. So guess where they're going to push the price? They're going to push it right to 20. You're going to get stopped out and then price is going to go back up. So what I always recommend to people, if you're going to use stop losses, and you should, especially if you don't have the discipline to do it without one, make sure to put it at weird random levels. Put it something like instead of at $20, put it like 1977 or like, something random where everyone else won't put it. And then you're less likely to get taken, if you will, by the bots and the algos.
That's so freaking interesting. Because that's so true. Like, people rather have, like, that even number and just be like, oh,
Right.
okay. Like,
It's human psychology.
Whoa.
We just get attracted to these round numbers and everything like that. So you have to learn these games, and then you start to actually do a lot better as an investor or trader because you avoid some of the pitfalls.
It's definitely a psychological thing, just like how you walk in a store and you'll find a sign that says something to the degree of, oh, there's a sale, this is $4.99 instead of the
Yeah.
$5 because it makes you feel better that you're
At
saving a
$5,
penny.
people are like, nope, can't do that. But $4.99, it still has a four in front of it. I can handle that. Yeah.
And you save a penny, which what can you do with a penny nowadays? Like throw it out.
Melt it down, basically.
I think it costs what, like 3 cents to make a penny now?
Yeah, basically. Yep.
Yo, outflation is outvaluing its own currency.
Yep.
That's freaking
So
wild.
true.
That is so wild. Wow, Gareth, this is amazing. You're dropping absolute alpha today. What
Nice,
else?
thank you.
I'm trying to think like what else do we need to know from these charts? I don't know. I feel like I drained my brain with questions for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just show you guys one more thing that's pretty cool. So
Yes, please.
let's go to oil, right? So one of the big calls this year was when Russia invaded Ukraine. Everyone and we're talking analysts on TV, they were all like, oil's going to $150 to $200 a barrel. They
Didn't
were all
oil go to
everyone was
zero?
like, and I remember posting it on Twitter. I was like, guys, oil's going down. The charts are saying it's going down,
Yeah.
and everyone was like, no, you're crazy again. Which is normal in my career. People call me crazy, but that's okay. I like that. All right, so look at this. So what I wanted to do here is let's go to the 2008 high, okay? And basically what we're going to do is we're going to connect these lows here. So we're going to connect the low from 2008 to this low, and we're going to drag it through. Well, basically what we see is on the COVID collapse, we went right down, we pierced it, but really we didn't do much more. We kind of stopped right there. So now we have a trend line. Now what we'll do is we're going to raise a parallel line up here. And what do we get? Look at this. So, and now just drag it out here and look at that. So basically what we had, and look at how this line is perfectly parallel with this line. And this is how I knew that at $130, price was going to stop, because you have this beautiful parallel line, and I use parallels in trading. And at 130, when Russia invaded and everyone was saying 200, we saw this go up, tag an exact pivot point from there with a parallel line down here. So again, that told me, okay, guys, look at the chart. I mean, every time it hits here, it bounces, bounces, bounces. Well, then same thing. Here it hit, pulled back. So in that theory, you should see a pullback here, and that's exactly what we saw. So just cool things like that. I mean, just playing around with charts. You don't need a million indicators on the chart to confuse you. Just draw some trend lines and find out what you find.
that candle in 2020, right? I remember like oil going to freaking like zero, right? Like
Yeah,
was that
negative even. It went
yeah.
even negative.
I was like, what the frick? So
I
what was
know.
that? Was that like a hot like that little string? It looks like a little string, like a little piece of
Yeah.
thread. So is that like considerable price action? And like how long
Oh,
was
that
it
was.
stay how long did it stay down there?
I
Because
mean,
I
I've
saw the
never
news.
seen oil go negative in my life. Basically, they were paying you to buy oil at that point.
Yes.
Now, just to give you an idea, it really wasn't as sweet of a deal as you think, because when you're dealing with futures contracts on commodities, if you hold it into expiration, you actually have to take delivery. And I think one contract's like 10,000 barrels of oil. So the reason why price went negative and people still weren't like, oh my goodness, this is the greatest thing in the world, is because at the end of that contract, you would have had to take delivery of 10,000 barrels of oil for as many contracts as you own. It might have even been more than that. It might be 100,000. I'm not sure what it is, but the point is, you actually have to store that oil somewhere. You have to have it, so it would cost a lot of money. But that's what happened, is that you saw this kind of panic sell off. A lot of funds got caught. Then they had to unload. Then price went negative because people didn't want to take delivery, and it got crazy.
Yeah, I was looking, I was like, holy freaking what? I can't
Yeah,
I was like something went to freaking zero for real. And it was
yeah,
oil. I couldn't
yeah. That
believe
was
it.
nuts.
My eyes. It was like, and everyone says Bitcoin's going to zero. I'm like, heck no, man. Like we're a lot
No.
more stable than oil. Like oil is like dying over here. It's really crazy how like things trade. Just certain things.
Yes.
Like there's a whole chart for oil.
Fear
Blows my
and
mind.
greed, right? I mean, fear and greed are the two most powerful human emotions, and that's what pushes price up or down. It really is. I mean, at 69,000 on Bitcoin, think about the greed that was out there. I mean, people on Twitter were like, "Oh, next by the end of November it'll be 100, and then by the end of December 250." Like it was just mass greed with everyone piling in, and those type of things mark tops, just like the fear that we saw here on oil marked the bottom, right?
Yes. Where do you think like oil can oil go back to zero?
Um, there's always that chance you have a repeat like this, but in general I would say no. But over the longer term, oil will go lower and lower, right? Doesn't mean it's not going to go higher at some point, but as we switch to alternate energy, as there's more and more of this push, it might be 50 years from now, but eventually the reliance on oil will go down in the world, really.
Yeah, everyone's going to like electric vehicles and
Yeah.
things like that. I don't know. Electric vehicles scare me a little bit
Yeah, and
because
and keep in mind with electric vehicles, like it's a great concept, but still a lot of that electricity is made by burning coal or oil.
yeah.
So the key is to how do you generate that electricity, whether it's solar panels or wind or some new technology, but you still have to get that electricity made somehow to fuel those. But I agree. I mean, I love the idea of electric cars, but you got to get I love the fact that some of these new ones are coming out with like 500 miles per charge. Now it's more in line with gas, right?
Yeah.
Versus before it was like you could get like 20 miles and it's like, okay, great. I basically can go get food at the store and be back.
Yeah, there's a lot of things like I take into consideration with electric vehicles. Before I go into that, guys, there's like 150 people here, only like 70 something likes. Let's smash that thing right
Come
now.
on,
But
light
like don't
that
break your
up,
screen.
guys.
Like you can smash it, but don't break your screen. Like you can hit it gently, like whatever you want. But like make sure you hit that button and also subscribe if you're feeling zesty, you know? But I think electric vehicles scare me because I feel like one, they could shut down your car. And two, what if we have like this thing with the iPhone when they change the chargers, right? And you have to
Mhm.
like go you're on the street and it's finally mainstream enough where you could go like park and charge your car, which I've seen in LA actually. But what if you have a new car that they're like, oh, we're changing the charger now, and then you have to have
Yeah.
all these adapters, and then what if you're driving in the middle of god freaking nowhere and you can't charge your car and there's no like gas option because they're not hybrid
Right.
anymore?
I know. So if I was Elon Musk, what I would figure out how to do is create an electric vehicle wrapped in solar panels, like create solar panels that like look so cool. And then imagine you're
Self-charging.
like driving in the desert and you just keep going and going. And it just, I mean, again, in my mind, it sounds simple. I'm sure it's not so simple, but there's got to be something where we create that where it just will continually charge.
Whoa, that would be sick. Like literally a self-charging car. We need a self-charging phone out here. I feel like
I
I get robbed with
know.
these cords.
Yeah,
Wow.
I agree.
Yeah, we're all getting rugged in one way or another. Gareth, you're amazing. You dropped some absolute alpha, and I know you have like a
Thanks.
ton of stuff to do today. So I'm gonna wrap this up for you. What do you think? Like, where can everyone find you? One and two, where do you think we're going in the future? Are we gonna have a Bitcoin dump? Are we gonna pump? Are we buying our Lambos? Are we going to the moon? Or are we going to McDonald's and buying more ramen for tonight's dinner?
Yeah. So so first off, I think again right now I'm slightly positive near term, meaning in the next couple of weeks on Bitcoin. I think we might see some sort of little short term move up that gets people more bullish before, but ultimately midterm I still think there's some downside. So just be a little careful. Doesn't mean to exit all your Bitcoin by any stretch, but just maybe be aware that you could go through a little bit more pain before the bottom's in. Pain makes us stronger, right? So that's not necessarily a bad thing, even though it's not fun to go through. And then I think that that just be ready. At some point, Bitcoin will start to turn into a more mature asset that is a safety play. We need to see regulation, at least the good type of regulation, so that the bigger money wants to go in. Remember, everyone says, we want Bitcoin to be owned by the masses, but if we also want price to go up, we need bigger money buyers. So it's kind of a give and take in that respect. And then to find me, go to Twitter at Gareth Soloway, for stocks, inthemoneystocks.com, and verifiedinvestingcrypto.com for cryptocurrency trades and videos.
Awesome. Let me actually grab those links right now
Thank
for
you.
you. I'm going to drop Garrett's Twitter. Everything else is in the description. But just make sure you click this, follow his Twitter, subscribe to his YouTube channel, be a
And
part
check
of.
out that education, verified
Yes.
investing education. It will blow your mind if you decide to do it, or if anyone decides to do it. It is some major. You'll never look at charts the same, and all of a sudden they start to make sense.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gareth. You're so amazing.
Thank
Like
you.
I can't even like contain it. It's so great to have you back. I need to have you back again sometime soon.
Yes, I
Um,
love chatting with you. We have great chats. I absolutely love it.
we do, we do. You're such an amazing person. You got to go fix those computers behind you, my guy.
I know.
Thank you to everybody in the chat that came today. So much love for every single one of you. Guys, make sure you're subscribed. You hit that like button. You comment after this is over. I think the next stream I have is the weekly Zest on Monday at noon. You'll catch up for the past week highlights in crypto. And of course, I have really good guests coming on next week as well. Always staying zesty on the channel. Thank you again, Gareth. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Make sure to click Gareth's links in the description. Follow him. Be one with the Soloway. Have a great day, everyone. And as always, stay zesty. Much love. Peace.
Good morning, crypto Twitter, it's Misty Crypto, spreading crypto with adoption, showing its benefits to my generation. Shout out to all my people, Jesse needs to be included, it's really that simple. We are savage, amazed, boss, zesty, making money at the same time, spread peace. I feel empty if you don't include Gen Z.